A man who lacks commitment can make a woman feel abandoned, rejected, invalidated, and unworthy. And so, when a lot of women get into relationships wanting the whole love, idea, but they end up in relationships with men who lack commitment or emotionally unavailable, it almost always ends up with the woman feeling abandoned, rejected, invalidated, and just feeling very small, lacking complete love. Welcome to another episode of the Wounds to Wisdom podcast. And in today's episode, with Father's Day around the corner, we're going to talk about how we can heal our relationship, how you can heal your relationship with men, primarily first by understanding when was your first relationship that you had with a man. Because in this episode, what we're going to talk about is not just the, oh, hey, watch out for the red flags and look out for men who can't really show up for you. It's understanding, why do I seek those men who can't show up for me? Why is it a pattern of men who can't love me and give me what I really want? Why is it a pattern of men who, in the beginning, I build this huge dream and this idea that we're going to have an amazing, loving life together. And then it almost always ends up with me begging, pleading, clinging, running away from, them pulling away, leading with heartbreak. So, what I want to explain to everybody listening out there is, and this is something that nobody thinks about. You want the loving relationship. You want everything into your life, right? We all want that. I don't even need to ask you that, because I don't think I know anybody who's like, yeah, I want to have a poor relationship. Funny enough, that's what your subconscious mind thinks. But you want these relationship ideas. But when, or rather, what is your body even used to when it comes to a relationship? Have you ever thought about it? What is your nervous system used to when it comes to a relationship? Think about the idea of love languages. There are different love languages, like the sense of touch, gifts, time, etc. Why do you even have those love languages? Have you ever thought about that? Well, the absolute truth is that the reason you love the way you want to, or love the way you do, or crave love the way you want to, the reason you have those love languages where you love or want love a certain way, is because that's what your nervous system is used to. Now, where do I get that idea, right? Where does this come from? You take a child when it's born first, when it's really young, its nervous system is like fresh to the world. It doesn't have the idea of like what trauma means. It doesn't have the idea of what rejection, abandonment mean, or what, like, even achieving success means. None of that. It doesn't know what anxiety is. Nothing. So this little being comes into the world, born from the mother's womb, right? Little developing nervous system, no idea in their head of what real love and relationships look like, only with the expectation, the true expectation, that they will be loved and taken care of no matter what. This is what every baby is born with. But not every baby ends up having that reality, as we know, because most of us are born to parents who have their own story. Some of us may not even have parents, but we were born to parents who had their own, at that time, their own traumas, that triggers their anxieties, their wounds, their inabilities to show up, all of those things. And so this baby who's now born into that experience receives a different kind of love than the love that this baby was born to expect, this unconditional, total protective love. This is a thing primarily of human beings, because we have a developed enough mind to create that kind of expectation, and therefore to create trauma from that expectation. Now, listen to me carefully. I don't want to take you down a slippery slope, but your nervous system, every time it experiences, when you were a little baby, when it experienced someone showing up for you or not showing up for you, it imprinted a little idea on the nervous system of what it can get used to. Think about why, you're so used to speaking English, is because your nervous system, the brain, which is the seat of your nervous system, received so much of conditioning, education, experience, like multiple repetition around it, so that now you become an expert at it. Same thing with liking certain foods, dressing certain ways, etc. It's conditioning. But the same thing about love, about the idea of love to you, how you can experience it, and what you want from it. And so your love language really becomes, when you're a little being, either A, what you were really used to experience. So maybe you really experience a lot of like touch, and so that's why you want your love language now is touch. Or, and this is the more interesting one, by a method of compensation and seeking and wanting and finding it, what you didn't experience. So for me, for example, my family, my parents were not very physically affectionate, even, like, let's say, emotionally as much. And so growing up, I always craved for a physical affection that was like much stronger, maybe than even my siblings, which is why they end up calling me touchy feely because every time we go home, I'm always jumping on them, hugging them, etc. With my wife, it's the same thing. Well, she's also very physically affectionate, but that ultimately became one of my love languages. And on the contrary, not being able, when I didn't have that, it made me want to seek it, like I said, like really strongly. So it became my love language. Now, if you think of, for example, on the contrary, I was saying time. My dad may not have spent enough time with me, but then as I started growing up, somehow my brain was like, okay, that's not something I can expect anyway, so leave it be. I know these two sound like two different elements on the opposite side of the coin, but it's all the same thing about the nervous system, that this is how it learns to want or seek or have love. Now, the title of this is How Do You Heal Your Relationship with Men? And the most important thing for you to understand here is, what was the first idea of a relationship with a man that you had? Now, this I know, I hope this podcast hits close to a lot of women, but even to a lot of men. But when a little girl exists, one of her strongest needs developing is actually the safety, stability, security, protection of daddy, and not necessarily just the affection of mom. That, of course, plays a huge part. But what a girl needs more in order to understand her relationship with men in the future is to create the strong idea of a relationship right now with the man in her life, AKA her father. And so, what a girl wants is to be carried on daddy's shoulders. More than just to be like hugged, she wants to be carried on daddy's shoulders. She wants to feel safe in his arms. When she sits on his shoulders, she feels like daddy's so strong. Daddy can take care of me. Daddy's not going to drop me. If I fall, he'll catch me. All of those things create a strong idea and expectation and understanding of stability, security, and safety for a girl. If daddy is available to spend time with this girl, to be around this girl, to give her that identity of love, she now understands and creates a stronger, healthier identity of a relationship with a man, a safe relationship with a man. But the truth is, for a lot of women, this is not the case. For a lot of men and women, but for a lot of women in this case, like we're talking about, it was not the case. They had fathers who were emotionally unavailable because maybe they had no idea how to really love in the first place. And so, and their fathers shamed it out of them. So when they had these little kids come up to them, they just didn't know how to give them love. They didn't know how to hold on to them and give them that total unconditional idea of safety, protection, stability. Maybe a lot of these fathers worked too much and were unavailable. Maybe some of the fathers were alcoholics. Maybe some of the fathers were narcissistic. Maybe some of the fathers had their own wounds. Ultimately, what any of those circumstances do is that it creates a pain, a trauma within the little baby girl, that she's not worthy enough to receive the unconditional love that she was born to expect. And so now this pure little baby girl keeps going on in her life trying to seek the kind of love that she didn't get. But at the same time, her nervous system is only used to the fact that she doesn't get that complete love. So now you take this girl, right? And you put this girl as she grows up into an adult relationship. What she knows, what her subconscious knows, what's in her nervous system, she's going to reproduce. That's just the absolute truth until or unless she's healed the wounds. So let's say she hasn't healed the wounds. So this girl has a block in her heart. She's got like, hurt and grief and damage from not receiving that love. So already her heart is kind of damaged, right? She's got the pain of her nervous system of not receiving the kind of love, but this is all she knows. So you put the same girl into a relationship with an adult male or man or in anybody, and she's only going to do two things. One, she's going to run the show like how she's always known to run it, which means she's only going to accept and receive the kind of love she's used to. More often than not, that is an emotionally unavailable man, someone who can't meet her needs, someone who can't love and show up for her the way she needs. But that's the only thing she's used to. So that's the only thing she's going to keep seeking. And the second thing is, she is going to keep hoping and clinging on to this love that she should have received from daddy, but that she didn't receive. And so that is going to lead her to only one place: a man who can't fulfill her needs, because that man is going to represent the first relationship she ever realized with a man, the relationship with her father. Now, I was on a live on my Instagram page where I talked about this a little bit. And so I want to share with you also, if you're listening, maybe a little reflection a little reflection and journaling of how you can understand this better for yourself. So I want you to bring a book and a pen, and I want you to journal these 2 or 3 important questions. And the first one is to ask yourself, what is the kind of love that I'm wanting from a partner? Okay? Write that down. First question, what is the kind of love I'm wanting from a partner? Take your time later on and journal that. Second, and this one is a really important one as well, what is the kind of love that I was wanting or always wanted from my dad but didn't receive? Now, this question will require you to separate your ego, to put it aside, and to really dive deep and to look into this and to really understand, like, okay, this is what I really wanted. Not just, oh, this is what daddy loved me. Yeah, everything was right because this is what I expected. This is what I got. This is the kind of love I had. Like, move on. You may think that that's helpful, but that's also you being oblivious to where there's a hole in your heart, where there's the need for you to fulfill love. So the second question is, what is the kind of love I always wanted but never received? And the third question, this is what's going to bring this together, is what is the kind of love that I'm used to? Which means, what is the kind of love or the kind of relationship that I have been experiencing? And you will see how the lack of the love in the first 2 categories leads to the third category, which is the only kind of thing that you're used to. Now, okay, you have this information. What do you do about it? What is the most important part for you coming out of this space is, obviously you're listening to this podcast because you want to get some information on how you can heal this, right? You want to get some information on what you can do to actually have loving, supportive relationships moving forward. And so for me, what I like to do is I always try to look as if, and here's the scientific fact: we live in cycles. Our brain lives in cycles. And so when you're in that young age and you want that love from daddy, you want that love and that beautiful relationship, think about it as a particular love cycle. But because that love cycle was not fully fulfilled, daddy couldn't meet all your needs. Think of that love cycle as being incomplete now. Right from a young age, that love cycle was incomplete. So instead of being a big circle, it's an incomplete circle. Think of it like a C. And I tell this to my students all the time. I love this new analogy. And the C represents the love you're used to, and the gap between the edges of the C represents the love that you want. And your entire life, you're going to repeat this cycle of love until you fulfill and complete that C. So it will always be an incomplete cycle of love until finally the C is closed, and then you move on and you evolve the kind of love. But the sad truth is, you cannot actually fulfill that C as you're continuously seeking people from the outside to do it. You can't. Again, why? Because this comes back to the idea of the nervous system. Your nervous system is only used to the idea of the C, which is the incomplete love. So, question, yes. Well, how do I move from a C to a circle or a C to an O to complete this? Think about it logically. If the gap of the C is the love that you're seeking, but it's the love that you don't know, think about it as being the love that your nervous system is not used to yet. What do you have to do? You have to get your nervous system used to that kind of love, right? Okay, how do you get your nervous system used to that kind of love when you don't even know what that love means? And that's where your healing comes into play. That's when you have to go back to weigh a few different things, like, what are my expectations of life? Where am I feeling hurt? Where am I feeling rejected, abandoned, invalidated? These feelings generally create that C. And through a process, we call this reparenting, and we do it in our 8-week program called the GAUNTLET. Through a process of reparenting and subconscious healing, you go back to complete those cycles of C. You go back to complete that cycle of C by learning to give yourself the love you always needed but never received. Are you hurting from shame, loneliness, toxic relationships? Do you want to break that pattern and create a beautiful, loving life for yourself? Well, my name is Yats, and I'm an inner work and relationship guru. And I have helped thousands of women and men from all around the world learn to become their best selves and have the lives that they truly want and desire. This channel was designed for you to be able to heal those old wounds, be able to become and elevate your best self, and to love your life really that you have right now. And I offer an 8-week
program called the GAUNTLET, which takes you on this amazing journey of healing those wounds. And I also offer in-person live retreats all around the world where you can access that same level of healing and empowerment. I want you to do something for you today. I want you to watch some of these videos. And if these videos hit close to home, they resonate with you and they're giving you some inspiration, then I want you to subscribe and share it with somebody else who needs it. These videos aren't just for someone to consume. They're meant to inspire people to take action. And if you want to take action in your own life, jump in the comments, watch the videos, send me a DM at the Inner Yats on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video.